Everyone, please welcome Andy Johnson to Innovate 2022.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It is a true pleasure to be here. Hopefully, if you're just jumping on, I'll do a quick introduction to myself. So, Andy Johnson, Vice President for Enrollment Management at Friends University for about 2 months. I took this job kind of quickly and have been living a bit in transition, but I'm really excited, and it's given me great opportunities. As far as this presentation goes, I've actually, for the last month, been involved in proposals from different companies that I didn't expect to be involved in when I started my project that you'll hear about, and when Capture asked me to present. So it's kind of brought me right back into the fray of presenting. So I do want to talk with you a little bit about my experiences and kind of learning about ed tech options for enrollment management. These will be my experiences. Yours might be different, but if you can learn something from mine, I am thrilled to share that. So, sorry about the double click. So I want to ask, if you're in enrollment management, is this you? So my knowledge of river rafting, I think I've done it twice in my life, is that typically the person that's controlling the boat is in the back. So I found this picture and I'm wondering, is this you? You're in the back. She looks strong to me. She's solid. So, maybe this is you running enrollment management. You run rapids, you guide, you lead, you are confident, experienced, forward thinking. In short, you're just kicking butt in the back of that raft, and everybody on board is having a great time, and you're king of the world. Or is this you? So if you look at the picture on, I think your left, the one that's the big one, the guy in the back, I zoomed in on him on the right, and then I wonder if this is you. It sure is me, probably on a daily basis in enrollment management. This poor guy, if you see him, he's hanging on to that little rope. He's leaning back, his paddle, at least he's holding on to his paddle. It's not in the river yet, but this guy is definitely being carried along for the ride. And if you've been in enrollment management for more than a day or two, you probably know how he feels, and I definitely do as well. And so I love that picture. We all want to be the first one with the guy that's in charge and is confident and controlling. But man, I know I have times where I am this guy here in the back, just hanging on, hoping not to get chucked out of the boat, and hoping my team can get us safely through the rapids. So I definitely had one of those times where I was the guy in the back that was just hanging on for dear life. I started a bit of a LinkedIn project in December, this past December, right after finals. I had that 5 minutes in my office where I was like, hey, faculty are off campus. I don't have as many meetings scheduled. I've got time to kind of do something for fun. And so I don't know about you, but when I scroll through LinkedIn, I see a ton of ed tech companies. And I was scrolling that morning, and there were just ones popped up that I didn't know. And I like to think that I'm pretty up on ed tech. I kind of fancy myself as a bit of a, ed tech nerd who loves that stuff. So I figured I'm going to post on LinkedIn, and that's what you see on your left. And it was basically like, hey, what are the ed tech companies out there helping us enrollment managers? Here's a few that I listed, a few that I've worked with that I'm familiar with. And I thought, I'm pretty good. I found the picture on the left, which is Edge Adventures. Every year they kind of do that. The one that you see there is from 2020. They probably got the 2021 out for a while, and 22 I think is coming out soon. And they categorize them and list them. But I was just like, that's just a cool picture that shows lots of them. But I probably know all those. So I'll do this post. Maybe I'll get 10 comments, and I'll kind of learn about a few new companies, and the original goal, I'll get their elevator speech or sentence or two, and just kind of get a better sense of it won't take too much time, and it'll be a little bit fun. But, by the end of that day, I went home and said to my wife, so I think I've got like a semi-viral post on LinkedIn. For me, totally viral, because I'm not used to, having all the responses. But in the middle, if you look at the end, we had like 11,000 impressions. over 100 comments. A bunch were from me, but over 40 companies kind of reached out to me either through that post or through like directly on LinkedIn messaging. And of course, they all wanted to do a demo. So I realized, I started something and I'm having fun with it. So my key takeaways from that project, it was in December and January and February when it was kind of the most. But as I mentioned briefly in my intro, it continued right through until yesterday. We signed some contracts based out of conversations that I started with this project. Now, initially, I wasn't intending them to be for Friends University, but that's kind of the way life goes. But when I first started, my goal was I want to learn about a few new companies, kind of their main value proposition, main value statement, just to kind of catalog them in a little bit of a way. And that was the next goal. I'm going to create this spreadsheet that's going to have the company, their main value statement, maybe a bit about what they want to cost, what's their platform, kind of their software. That was my next goal in the project. But it just kept rolling and kept going. So then I moved on to a next goal, and that's the one that you see in the middle of the screen, which is to give up. Like, forget this. It's too much. So for a while, I was just like, forget it. I've got a real job to do. Great LinkedIn. That's cute. That's fine. But I've got to do my job. But then it kept happening. People kept responding. I kept getting in conversations, kept learning more. So then it was like, well, I'm not going to give up, but I'm definitely not doing demos and conversations with everybody. That's it. I'm going to try to push everybody back to this one sentence value proposition that if you have time to look through the post, you'll see me trying hard to push back that way. So I was like, I'm not going to do the conversations and the demos. I don't have time. That's not what I'm doing here. Then after I did a few of those and it kept going. So then I was like, well, all right, let's learn as much as we can. So I'll talk to everybody that I have time to talk with. I went to a conference in Little Rock, Arkansas. I think it was SACRO conferences in Little Rock. Met a few new different companies there and kept talking to them. At this point, my goal is like, okay, I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to learn from it, but I'm not, that's about it. But then finally I got to this place where let's invest in this. Let's talk to everybody that you can, because you never know. And right about that time, I got a call from Friends University and it turned out to be really appropriate for me. But the takeaway is that there are so many options in EdTech enrollment management that it's not as easy as knowing here are the companies and here's what they do. And so I can just kind of pick and choose. So that was a real takeaway for me. I thought I knew them, but then I learned that there are literally countless of options, and new ones come up all the time, new companies, or they merge. And so it really is kind of running the rapids and trying to keep the boat going where you want it to go and where you need it to go. But it's a moving and changing game. So then I thought, okay, I've got this project. I don't want to be the guy in the back of the raft that's hanging on for dear life and just going wherever the river takes me and bumping into rocks on whatever side and, just hoping, dear God, let us survive this trip. So I got to control this raft. If I'm going to do the EdTech rapids, I want to control the raft because I want to know what I'm doing and get the most out of it. And so I realized that it's not as much for me about learning all the companies and what they have to offer, but I needed to know institutional needs. So I think I'd encourage you to obviously do that, and everybody's going to tell you that, but know what you need before you kind of dive into the EdTech river. So for me, I knew that I wanted my school at the time and Friends University now, I wanted us to have data and insight that got down to individual student behavior. So for me, that was a key. I was going to focus on companies that helped me get individual student behavior on a day-to-day basis into the hands of my staff. Then I also think for controlling the raft, for me, it was important to know what I'm interested in. So there were EdTech companies that reached out to me that had to do with kind of course scheduling or transcript evaluation. And while those are important for enrollment management, they weren't what I was looking for. So know your personal interest, because I'm hoping that you were hired because of your expertise and interest and not just to be a placeholder. So for me, heavy click. Sorry. So for me, my personal interests are I'm always looking for unique products, unique platforms, new companies over established companies. For whatever reason, that's what I like. I've had really good work working with companies that are a little bit newer and getting started. I have found them to be really responsive and great customer service. And it's fun to work for a company where if you say, hey, have you guys thought about this? Or man, I sure would love to find X, Y, or Z in the field. If you're working with a kind of a newer company I've found that's flexible in learning, they might come back and say, we can do that, or let's try that. Or do you want to be a beta school for us? To which I always say yes. I'd love to be a beta school for this project. So for me, I wanted unique products and platforms. I wanted new over established companies. And I wanted to kind of have a voice in what the company was providing to me and my team. And so then to control the raft instead of just get thrown around, I realized I had to set parameters when I'm looking at these companies and who I'll talk to, who I'll invest in, who I'll ask for a proposal. So I look for certain types of partner companies. Again, I want ones that are responsive and flexible and a little bit small. I like ones that are higher ed specific. You might like ones that have been business and then have a higher ed branch. That's really going to be up to you. But for me personally, I like higher ed specific. And I like the ones that other high ed tech companies are referring. So I find that that's, we're all in the same industry, but the ed tech industry within itself, they'll know each other and they'll talk about each other. And if they're speaking highly of another one, that means a lot to me. And then I always love something that's like a specific product or a unique product. So in a little bit, I'll get into a couple of those that I found along this journey. But really, for me to control the raft, you got to know your institutional needs, know your personal interests, and then set some parameters. Otherwise, you could spend a full-time job talking to different companies. So then, okay, you've set parameters, you're controlling the raft, but you've got those tools, right? So you've got, in this instance, paddles can help. You want your life jackets, and you want experience. You want practice running that river. And so for me, a key phrase came up in this journey, and that I thought, okay, any partner that we're going to contract with has to help our team succeed. Which, right, everybody says that, it's a given. But what that meant for me was I wanted any company to have a specific direct route to my staff on a daily basis. So my admissions counselors, financial aid counselors, then I wanted that data to get from the company to those people to help them recruit with intelligence. So I'm looking for technology that prioritizes outreach, so individual and personal. That was key to me. I didn't want just macro level data that I as an enrollment manager had and then processed and then fed down to my directors, and then maybe it made its way down. I wanted something direct to the staff that are doing the recruiting on a day-to-day basis. And then I for sure needed, at my prior institution and at Friends, I needed some technology that's going to guide our financial aid offers. So for me, those were the things those are going to be my paddles and life jackets. Experience is happening along the way in this project for sure. So we're at Capture Innovate. So obviously Capture has been one of those companies that has worked really well for me. And so they definitely hit both of my needs for individual student strategies. So they have the financial aid leveraging piece that I've used and is great on individual student likelihood to enroll. But they also then have kind of a daily visitor stream to the website that goes right to the counselors saying, here are your students that were on the website in the last day. And so I've trained over time. You've got them. They're telling you, those students are telling you right now, they are interested in our school because they're on our website. So your task every day, you get into the office, you turn your lights on, you get your coffee or whatever it is, you turn your computer on, you fire up your email, and you pull up the DVR. And that's one of the first things you do. You look, okay, today I've got 7 students that were on the website, do a little bit of research, and you're contacting them. Now, later on, you'll get into how do you do that contact. But the older you are, like me, the more you might think that's creepy. But the younger you are, the more you realize that that's just life. But, you have your staff reach out and they don't have to say, hey, I saw you were on our website last night. But there are ways to do that. And I love that. That's direct data on our individual students into the hands of our counselors with real-time actionable information that's invaluable. So another thing that I was thinking along this project was, what are some other paddles, life jackets, tools that I can use? And I began to think, I think that we can build a system that's pretty good at doing school to student, back and forth. So we're good at even personalizing and you'll hear more about personalization in the next session, but we're good at personalizing school to student, school to student, school to student, school to student. But what if we could get our recruits as students to students interacting with each other? Some of you are sitting there like, oh yeah, that's like the Facebook, class of 2018 Facebook group that we all started and tried. And for maybe the first year or two was semi-successful. But the reality is we say to ourselves, they didn't like it. That didn't really work. So I was thinking along in this project, I wonder if there's a company that's going to help me figure out how to do that in a modern, contemporary way. And so I found one, for me that worked really. Some of you guys are probably pretty familiar with Zimi. I actually had not heard of them until this project. So I was happy. And this is a screenshot of one of their staff, Harrison Campbell. If you've had a chance to meet him, great guy, super helpful. And you'll see in my response, well, you can't see my response, but his response, I'm still at this stage trying to get him like, okay, tell me, Zimi, one or two sentences. What are you about? How are you helping? And so I was pushing him back towards that. But as I embraced the project and had more conversation with this specific company, I realized that they could help me do that one piece that I was looking for. So over the course of a few months in conversation, I ended up signing a contract with them. And these are screenshots actually from Friends University. So not too long ago from our launch date. And so, if you've never worked with Zimi, one of the most fun things that they'll do is they're getting all your data. And then on whatever night you guys set up to launch, they're blasting out to all of the students in your data, inviting them to join your school's chat in Zimi. And so they did this, and it's fun because, I'm sitting there just watching all of these students jump on and start talking to each other. They are talking about the craziest, most random things, but they're in the Friends University community talking to each other and building affinity for our institution. For my staff, while they're asleep, these kids are building a relationship with friends. And I love that. I was telling my staff, like, look, you're not going to have to do anything here. But if this kid comes, you take credit for it. This is a relationship that you're building. It just so happens that it's easy to build. So then if you look on this screenshot, I love, this was from our first night. And so on the left-hand column near the top, there's a student named Zeus, probably a, pretty good looking dude, but I don't know him. He's Greek godlike, but he says, should I come to this school? I don't know. I'm still trying to decide. And all of a sudden other students are jumping in like, you should come here. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. They kind of talk through some fears. Will I make friends? You already have friends in this chat. And then on the bottom right, kind of 2/3 of the way down, you'll see Zeus say, looks like I need to schedule a visit. And I saw that. I took these screenshots. I'm sending it out to my directors. I'm like, look at this. It works. This kid right here, Zeus is coming for a visit. This is going to be great. So it's a neat instance of seeing it work in real time. And even last night, I was watching the chat, and it's all about, what do I bring to live in the dorms, all these things. And these kids are chatting with each other. So that to me was one company that for me was this isn't a sales pitch for Zimi. If it works for you, awesome. Look it up. If not, and there's other ones that work for you, good. It goes back to the other, knowing what you need for your institution, for your preferences, and what's going to help your staff succeed. One of the last things that I wanted to talk about before giving you guys a chance to ask some questions is the experience piece. And so one thing that I have learned over my career is that I'm not the only river guide out there. So, I know that for those of us that are on a campus, it can feel like on the day-to-day. We're so focused on our institution, and we're doing the best we can to just keep that raft in the river and charting its way down towards that next enrollment cycle. But I think projects like this have helped me realize that we have a whole lot of support from each other. So I posted on LinkedIn again, this little post that you'll see. Basically, for me, it was kind of a reach out to, hey, anybody who's been, recently new at a school or has good advice, here's what I'm trying to do in these early days where I'm drinking from the fire hose. And really what it was a hope for some responses. And I've gotten a couple responses. What those people don't necessarily know yet is that I'll be reaching out to them individually, because I figure if you're going to respond to my post, what you're telling me is that you're open to a relationship where I can learn from you and we can learn from each other. And it's not necessarily ed tech, but it's so helpful and so important. So I wanted to throw that in, that when we're running the river, running the rapids, do not feel like you're alone. Other people have done it and are doing it at the same time. So that's a key piece. And for me, that's important. So I am happy to be a resource to any of you who are looking at companies. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, hit me up on LinkedIn. I put my cell phone number on there, but please don't call me. Feel free to text, but if you call, I'm just not probably going to see it. But I know how important it's been for me to talk to other people. And if you're out there thinking, I've heard of one of these companies, or I need some help in my enrollment area and, X, Y, or Z specific, you want somebody to talk to, I'm happy to do that. It's, to me, I've learned so much in my career from people who have been willing to share their time, that I am more than willing to share my time back with you guys. So that is a quick ride down the river. Hopefully we got our paddles, life jackets, helmets. We've got experience, and we're going to guide the raft, and our team, everybody's coming with us, and we're going to tell the raft where we want it to go to have the best experience possible.